Good morning, first grade. So we have been learning about birds in our new unit for reading. So before we get started today and read our story, I want you to think about what were those 4 things a bird has to have in order to make it a bird. So what did we talk about that were 4 things that makes a bird a bird? That's right, they need feathers, wings, feet, and a beak. So each day we're going to focus on one part of a bird. So for today, we're going to focus on their beak. So as we read our 2 different stories today, I want you to think about what is so special about a beak. Why does a bird need to have a beak? So our first story that we're going to look at again is Just Ducks. And we already read this whole story, so we're only going to focus on one part. And remember, the type of ducks that are in our story, those are called mallard ducks. So we're going to read about on these 2 pages how a duck uses its beak. So it says, "They're still eating when I cross the bridge to go to school. I look down and see them swimming around, dabbling at the surface." Now, this is a new word for us. We don't say that we dabble. So when we look at this page, down here we have something written small, which is our caption, that tells us what dabbling means. So let's see what dabbling is for ducks. It says dabbling is when ducks nibble at the surface of the water with their beaks to get tiny bits of food. So they eat small insects and seeds. So when a duck is dabbling, their beak kind of goes down at the surface a little bit and it keeps poking at things to get food with its beak. So that's what we see our ducks doing over here. He's down a little deep and they're dabbling to try to get their food. Let's see what's on our next page. It says an upending to reach food that's underwater. Brr, it looks so cold. And again, we have our caption that tells us what upending means. So it says upending is when ducks push their heads right under the surface to eat water plants and creatures such as snails. So this is another way how the ducks use their beak to go down deeper into the water to get their food. So we have 2 ways that they're using their beaks. They're right on the surface and dabbling to get their insects, or they do their upending to go deeper into the surface. So I want you to think about and just look at these pictures of how the ducks are using their beaks. And we're going to get even closer on the cover so you can see how their beaks look too. So think about what we just read and what the mallard duck's beak looks like. Now that we read from our first book, we're going to compare it and see how it's the same or different from our book called Birds. And this book's a little different than Just Ducks because we talked about how this book has different text features. So for example, it has the text feature of our table of contents, which again tells us what we'll find on the different pages, what our topic will be. And then as we turn, it kind of looks like a title because it's bigger, but it's called a heading. So this one says cool colors. So it talks about what this page will be about. So this page is talking about all the cool colors that birds have. But for today, remember, we're just talking about the beak, so we don't want that page. So we're going to turn to our page that says brilliant beaks. So these are some extraordinary different beaks that all of these birds have. So it looks a little different. These beaks are a little different than what our mallard duck beak looks like. So now I want you to listen to what our Birds book says about beaks. So get ready. So again, we're focusing on what the beak does for the bird. So here we go. It says, a bird's beak is perfectly shaped to eat its favorite foods. Some beaks catch fish. Some beaks crack nuts. So what did it just tell us that the beaks can do for these birds? That's right. It said that they eat their favorite foods with their beaks. And sometimes they catch their fish or they use it for nuts. So those are two examples of what they eat for their beaks. And down here, now just like our other book on Just Ducks, we have our smaller print, which is our captions, to talk about all these different birds and what they use their beaks for. So listen to what the different birds do with their beaks. See if it's the same thing as the duck or if it's different. So we have this big bird, which is a toucan. It says a long beak helps the toucan save energy. It can reach fruit in trees without moving. So it doesn't even have to move its body to get its food. It can just use its long beak to just snatch it right out. So he doesn't have to use that much energy. Then we have, it says beaks come in all sorts of shapes and sizes. So if you look at them, they all aren't the same size. We have some smaller ones and we have some bigger ones, so they're different. They are used for grooming and for fighting. Grooming is when they're cleaning themselves, so they use their beaks to clean themselves, as well as for eating. So this is an Atlantic puffin. He uses his beak to grip fish. An Australian pelican traps fish in its beak. Then we have the flamingo, which uses it to sift the water. So all of these birds use their beaks for different things. Some of them use it for their water, for their fish, for their nuts, and also to clean themselves. So beaks are used quite a bit for birds. So now that we just finished about our mallard ducks in Just Ducks, and we read about our birds, our beaks, I want you to think about and think of a sentence that you can write about how birds use their beaks. And also on top of your sentence, I'm going to send you a picture of a mallard duck since we just read about a mallard duck. And you're going to sketch. Now, again, we do our best. We look for that high quality. We try our best. So I did my best to draw my mallard duck, and you're going to label where the beak is since that's what we focus on today. And then I want you to also describe what the beak looks like. So we used adjectives. So is it long? Is it small? Is it short? Is it hard? Is it soft? So tell me about what the mallard duck's beak does for it and how it looks. So again, your job today is to think about how do birds use their beaks? Why are they so important? And then to draw a picture of the mallard duck and label its beak and tell me what does that beak look like. I hope you enjoyed this. I'll talk to you later.